Morning, this is Jennifer Wegeman at WorkNet2Page. Hope you're having a great day so far. We're going to be getting started in just a moment. Good morning. Welcome everyone. We're going to be getting started here in just a moment as everyone enters our virtual workshop space. Glad we could be with you today. We have a lot to cover and we're going to have some really interesting information for you. Hope everyone is having a good day. Today we're going to be on webinar mode, which means we have the Q&A area. If you have a question, if you could form a question and ask us, a specific detailed question, that would be very helpful. We got a lot of moving pieces that we're looking at while we're doing our presentation, and if you could form a good question that is relevant for the group, that would be helpful. If you have very specific individual things that are going to be wanting to be addressed, that's probably a better conversation with your career counselor or directly with us one-on-one, and we'd be happy to initiate a conversation if you have a question. All right, so we've got a lot of people here today. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying the nice weather that we've had this week. We're going to be talking today about digital portfolios. I'm going to go ahead and start. So again, welcome to WorkNet2Page Career Center. We've got a lot of great content here to share with you, and we've been putting this all on our website. So if you have missed any of the past Fridays, we do have a limited number of seats, and it's limited to 100. So if you weren't able to register, we do record these and put the recordings on the website, worknet2page.org/webinars. You can also register there for any upcoming events that we have that are open to the public. If you're a client, you're welcome. If you are new to WorkNet2Page, welcome. And we'll talk about how you can get involved if you have never been here before. We have some great options for you in your job search to help you with potentially training if you're eligible, or job search skills services, career services. All right, so today we're going to be talking about digital portfolios and professional development trends. And what we're going to talk about today is increasing your chances of getting hired using digital portfolios. And I'm going to help you demonstrate how you can capture your training, your online learning, and more to create an online portfolio that showcases your skills, your experience, and your professional development. First, let's go and welcome our staff on the call today. Jim Fergal, manager of job. He's manager of Job Seeker and Veteran Services. Siobhan Morse, workshop facilitator, and myself, Jennifer Wegeman, another workshop facilitator here at Career Center. Just a little Zoom etiquette. We want to be polite and courteous, obviously respect everyone's opinions. If you're typing anything in the chat, be sure it's appropriate. I think we all know this, but we want to, being appropriate in a public setting like this. This is being recorded as well. So I don't think you can unmute at this point. So if you do have a specific question or concern, just type in the chat and you can address it to the panelists, which is Jim and myself. We also just want to create a very positive environment, so we hope that you'll enjoy this information. And again, all the recordings, if you need to step away or you want to listen to this again, it's on our website at worknet2page.org/webinars. All right, Jim, do you want to talk real briefly? I think you had something you wanted to share.
Yes, we got feedback from the county on some people we sent over for interviewing for a contact tracer position. And it's disheartening on the number of candidates that got rejected because, one, they didn't prepare. Two, they weren't able to tie their experiences to the position. Three, had attitude coming across, well, because I am this, I should get the job, whatever their certification was, kind of like, and not give any other answer connecting them to the job. They weren't prepared, among other things, and just weren't even sure about the stories or the examples that they were giving. They would just wander off into Neverland, I guess. So preparation is very important, and that's why I encourage you, if you're going to have a Zoom or virtual or even a video recorded interview, to go to our website. I have presented this in the past. You go to our job club page, and the video is in there, virtual and video interviews and how to prepare. We have workshops on developing accomplishment statements, developing your interview stories. In the virtual interview, it's how to set up your station so you have everything there. It's one thing to be condescending in the interview to the employers, like, you should hire me because I am this, but, and give no other reason. Attitude doesn't help other than a positive attitude. There was lack of enthusiasm, just a multitude of things. Everything that could go wrong went wrong for these people. Only a third of the ones we sent over got hired, and that's sad. So I encourage you, if you have an interview coming up, to go to our website. If you are working with a counselor, we do have additional job search websites. We will be going into the pool again. So to refer more people, we've been referring them slowly depending on the process. Anyway, that's all I have to say, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you so much. I know it's always disheartening to hear that people bomb interviews. It does happen, but hopefully the people that we are referring from the Career Center are going to do better on average than most people, because they've had access to all these resources and these activities. All we can say is be prepared and, listen to the questions that are being asked of you. If you're ready and your stories, you're not going to have a problem. You're going to be confident. You're going to address what's being asked of you, and hopefully you'll get the job. All right, so we're going to switch gears, and hopefully we can all learn from those experiences. We can double down on our, preparation. And this is today's topic. Again, we're talking about digital portfolios, and we're going to help you come up with a plan for action, and help you assess your ability to plan these goals and demonstrate your growing knowledge in your e-portfolio online. Want you to reflect and analyze on the process of developing this portfolio. I think it will help you go back and look at your experience and give you enthusiasm about what you're going to do going forward. It may also cause you to think about some other options that you may have that you didn't think of before when you reflect. So sometimes there's a good way to look at this. It's also about marketing, it's about branding, it's about networking and how you organize your information, not only on your resume, but in your online persona. You know, so many of us are on LinkedIn, which is a large platform. It's also really a digital portfolio that you can use your profile to showcase all that you can do for a potential employer. And sometimes you have to go back and look at your past several jobs, even jobs that you may have had a long time ago, and you want to circle back and do more of that now. You know, there's an opportunity when you're at a crossroads, you might be able to take a different path. You know, that's the good thing about transition. You have time to reflect and take a look at what you're really good at. Know yourself. You know, self-awareness is really the biggest first step in any job search. But you want to think about your personal characteristics, your experience, your accomplishments, your knowledge, and your skills. And we're going to talk about this book a little later in the webinar, but it's Peaks. You know, it's a professional strategy that you can use, again, using your personal characteristics, your experience, your accomplishments, your knowledge, and your skills. And that stands for PEAKS, the acronym PEAKS, P-E-A-K-S. So you can implement a technical layout and use design skills to help you develop your portfolio, but you don't have to be a techie to do this. Believe me, if I could do this and create a couple different portfolios, anybody could do this. And you want to evaluate how you might want to revise your resume based on some of this in-depth reflection and information. Now remember, the resume is a very strange form of business writing. Business writing is different than streams of consciousness, and you know, it's very succinct, it's very concise, very short and snappy. And that's, again, like bumper stickers on a car, you know. And you want to, again, think about how you're marketing yourself. How are you branding yourself? If you've got a lot of different jobs that you've had over the years, you want to tie those threads together and make it understandable and highlight the functional skills areas. And, you know, I've had this situation because I've changed careers a few times. I had to really go back and look at what were my top functional skills. If you don't know what those are, you need to do that homework. And again, it'll help you in, this is all preparation, as we just said, for interviews. If you know who you are and know what you can do, you're going to be able to speak more confidently in the interview and do better in the interviews. And this is also a way you can share information with colleagues and potential networking contacts, professional connections that you make. You could share your online portfolio and have them look at it in addition to possibly sending your human version of your resume. By the way, you know, while you're creating this plan, you know, you're going to be thinking about a lot of different things. And, you know, the first thing is, why would you even have a digital portfolio? Let's start there. Well, everybody's a lifelong learner, whether you're forced into it or not. We were forced into remote technology. We never did any of this before March. So April, we started doing weekly events remote so we could continue doing the work that we do. We've learned a lot. You know, were we ever going to do that on our own? Probably not. But, you know, one shining silver light in the dark cloud of this pandemic is, you know, I've got some new skills I can now put on my LinkedIn or on my portfolio. But you're always learning. And so this is an excellent way, because you forget, especially when you're working for many years, you do your thing, you show up, you do it. You don't always document it or highlight things thinking ahead, but hey, maybe I need to show this to people at some point. Even for internal promotions, sometimes you need to document this stuff. So it's always a good idea to just keep a regular standing appointment with yourself to help, you know, document some of these activities that we're going to talk about. But when you use digital portfolios, you can help pull all that knowledge together. And this is just kind of a academic way of saying integrative, intentional learning, cognitive skills. These are all things that you bring to the table when you do lifelong learning. You're always getting better and better, and you're doing more and more with the tools you have. Even if you've been in the same position for a while, you know, you're always learning and growing. And that way you can help pull all that together, whether it's you're learning at work, at home, or in a school program. So what exactly is a digital portfolio? Well, remember back in the day before we had the interwebs, the internet, you had, you know, maybe you were a graphic designer and you would have pictures of your logos, you know, you'd have printed work that you did and you would carry it around in this big portfolio. Anybody remember that, seeing people? I used to work downtown and I would see these people wandering around with these big, you know, portfolio cases because they were going to showcase their work and show somebody so they could get a job. But they are also referred to as multimedia portfolios, electronic portfolios. And again, I mentioned LinkedIn. That's a perfect example of a portfolio. So you can call them all kinds of different things, but they're going to be in a digital format online or in the cloud. So when you use a digital portfolio, what you're going to do is you're going to pull artifacts, you're going to pull materials together, you're going to collect, you're going to organize these things. And this is part of your action plan, is to assemble these things so you can present them in the format that makes sense for your career. Like I said, the graphic designers, you know, sure, they don't do that walking around with their portfolio cases anymore. They put that stuff online. They showcase their work online. If you create logos or you do visual arts of any kind, you have a lot of different mediums now that you don't have to carry that stuff around with you. So based on what you're doing, again, you know, you don't want to possibly give away the whole store, but you could definitely showcase things, maybe in an audio, a video, recordings, databases. You know, do you have a project that you could do an example of? Spreadsheets. We talked about graphics. That's real easy. Charts, animation. So when you can demonstrate this evidence using these artifacts, you can show that you're competent. You've got the skills, you've got the knowledge. And that can, you know, depending on who your audience is and who you're trying to reach, you can tailor this, and you can have several different kinds of portfolios. You can have more than one, especially if you're in a few different things.
Jennifer,
Sorry.
uh,
Go ahead.
there was a question about what are metacognitive skills?
I'm glad you asked. I'm going to get into that in the next slide.
Oh, okay. And the same thing about LinkedIn, is that the only digital portfolio? So,
Yeah, we're going to get to all that. So
okay, good.
we're going to have time for questions in a little bit, but I will cover all of that. No problem. Thanks for the questions. So with these, you know, these different types of audiences, like I said, you can have a couple different kinds of portfolios. And, you know, just a caveat, don't put anything that's personal, private information. That would be birthdays, social security numbers, military numbers, you know, any kind of, you know, obviously not your bank account. You know, I see so many emails, though. I have to do a sidebar here. And they have dates in the emails. If you look at your email and there's like a birthday that somebody could figure out from those dates in there, take it out, do a different email. Usually your name, initial, and your last name, whatever. And Gmail is the most professional. Other than that, you shouldn't have, you know, any kind of dates that people could figure out, because all they need is like one thing. And I do a whole job scam workshop, and we have the most recent one online as well if you want to look at that. But be careful out there, especially when you're posting things to public platforms. You want to be, you know, there's a lot of information And I would also recommend your resume, if you do post that to your digital portfolio, just as a security precaution, don't put your address. You don't need your street address up on the web. That's another piece of information that they need to pull together an identity. So you want to be very careful. There's a lot of scams right now, so I just would say beware and be careful and just know who you're dealing with when you're giving away your personal information. But if you showcase it, it's like a billboard up on the highway. You're just putting it up there for any nefarious person. And it doesn't take much for them to do that. It doesn't take a lot of smarts. All right. So I digress. Sorry about that, but I'll get off that soapbox. But here we go. Types of platforms. So does anybody remember that movie, Julie and Julia, about Julia Childs, and this woman decided she was going to cook every recipe from Julia Child's cookbooks and blog about it for 365 days. She presented quite a challenge to herself because it's not the easiest recipes throughout that book, but she started blogging about it. That's a portfolio. She was showcasing something she was doing and how she felt about what she did, and it gained a lot of attention. There was a movie made about it. Doesn't take much sometimes to attract the attention of Hollywood, but she had an audience and people thought it was kind of a cool idea. You don't have to be that, focused. And she was in New York with those small kitchens, God bless her. But anyway, functional, transferable skills. How are you going to highlight those? Maybe you're going to use case studies. Maybe you had teams, reports, things that you did in your industry. Maybe you were part of an association in your industry and you worked on projects. Maybe you published articles. Maybe you wrote for your organization, or you were featured in an article that was produced with you as part of the article. These are all things, awards. There's just so many things that you could highlight. And a lot of times too, people will write nice recommendations. Have a third-party recommendation. That sometimes on LinkedIn, people will write nice recommendations. What's to stop you from cutting and pasting, putting that into a nice Word document and putting that up, on your portfolio? What other people say about you is a third-party endorsement. And they always use language that speaks to your skills, speaks to your efforts. And that's always a nice, when potential employers or other contacts read that, they think, wow, this is somebody I want to get to know. So again, you want to make sure that you've got a variety of portfolios that work for your intended audience. So sometimes, maybe you're going through college courses. I teach at a local university at DePaul, and part of the work that they do in a course could be posted to a digital portfolio, and that showcases your learning. And so let's say you finish your degree, you want to look back at what you did. This is a way to capture all that. And it may be interesting, and it may just be you looking at that. This again could be just for your own edification, for your own use. Not everything has to be public. We're going to talk about a lot of different, things, and it may just be something that you hit on that might help you decide what you're going to do. There's a lot of ideas we're going to throw around today, but it's going to be your unique individual needs and how you're best going to address this for yourself. There's no cookie cutter response for each person on the call today. But then, as you learn and as you grow, you may be able to capture that and then put that into a portfolio. Over this past 2 years, I've accomplished X, Y, and Z in my studies, and I used, this example of this, advanced project that I did for my class, and this is what I learned. And then that could be something that you could showcase in a portfolio to a potential employer to show that you have experience in doing something. Even if you don't have work experience, you're showcasing that you had that experience going through that process in a learning environment. So again, there's different reasons why you might want to highlight achievement. that's a great way to highlight your accomplishments, past projects. These are accomplishment type statements and descriptions that you want to use. Highlight the functional, the transferable skills that are used in the job that you want. You always want to highlight those on a resume. Same thing for a portfolio. And then, for example, the demo reel. If you've got animation or videos, games, photos, whatever you do, Pinterest could be an example of this. Some people are collecting things or showcasing if they're in a visual arts of some kind. That's a real easy visual aids are the easiest to document, I would say, just in my thought process, because you can show and tell. It's easy to show somebody what you built or what you created or how you designed a room if you're an interior designer. I mean, that's easy, and most people visually are geared toward visual learning anyway. So think about, hopefully this is cooking up some ideas for you, but we're going to keep going, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more, and hopefully this will answer one of the questions that was asked. When you showcase your professional development, as we briefly touched on, this is something that can integrate your learning. Integrative learning is looking at all these little pieces that come together. And again, each one of us has a separate career path. For me, it took how many decades of work to realize that my first career coming out of college, back in the day when we were using WordPerfect, as Jim and I discussed just now, that was a long time ago, but I was in the tourism and, marketing and promoting a tourism destination. What's different? Before, I was packaging this place, okay? It was a destination, Ontario, Canada. What am I doing now? I'm packaging job seekers. So a lot of the skills that I used back then, I have figured out that really that was a good setting and a good introduction to what I'm doing now. I'm helping people polish up, if it's not the car, the hotel, and the attractions, it's, what are their work experiences? What do they bring to the table? How do I help the person showcase who they are and what they can do? I don't know. I see the connection, maybe you don't, but it's interesting when you look back at your different, job and work experiences, and even it doesn't have to, it could be volunteer experiences. You can tie those threads together sometimes and say, wow, I've been doing the same stuff really with these few skills that I do all the time. There's nothing different. It's just a different setting. But sometimes you have to step back and take that time for reflection. Intentional learning, obviously, if you want to develop and predict where your career path could lead, if you had certain certifications or if you had certain studies under your belt, you're going to be the best person to know where your career is going. Now, I used to be, working in, key punch. Remember that, anybody? Okay. Again, I'm dating myself, but key cards no longer are, being used. That was like at the beginning of the computer era. So unfortunately, we don't realize some industries are going to die. They're going to, be like the dinosaurs. They're not going to be around. So if you're not doing your research and you're not sure where your industry is going, and obviously we've learned just from this last few months that a lot of things are shifting. We've learned that manufacturing, they were having a hard time filling jobs for a lot of their positions in the beginning anyway, before all this started. And now they're going to go to automation. So then they don't have those problems. They're going to invest in that, but that does present opportunities too. So again, you have to start looking at your industry, not just up close, but you got to look at the bird's eye view, the 50,000 foot view. Don't be just on the runway and think, oh yeah, I'm going to have a job for the next 20 years that I want to work. Well, what is that job? How is it going to evolve? You have to do that intentional learning and that research and check in with it every so often, because things shift very fast, as we've learned recently with no warning. And then the question was, what is metacognition? Well, it's thinking about thinking. and it allows learners to assess what do they know, how do you develop your learning, how do you address or work around challenges, what can you transfer. So it's really a combination of integrative learning and intentional learning, but it's thinking about thinking and just being able to get involved in your own job search future. You know, you're always going to be needing to have skills and develop your skills. What are those skills and how can you best continue on that path that's going to provide you with not only a challenging work environment, but, you know, a good salary, a good income, benefits, things that are going to be necessary to you to provide the kind of lifestyle that you want to lead. So back to your artifacts. This is pretty straightforward. Again, you know, most people are going to change jobs anywhere from 7 to 12 times in their career. You know, the days are gone when somebody works for 25, 30 years at one place. You know, that's possible and it does happen and good for you. But, you know, you are going to need this information more than probably just this one time. I'm not going to predict that, but I just know that that's the true facts are, you know, we change careers a lot more frequently than we think we're going to. So, and change jobs. So these are all some ideas, you know, what are your certificates? And it's good to keep this information. You know, it's possible that you might have paper versions of it. Go ahead, take it, scan it, make sure that you have it on a thumb drive or an external hard drive. So if your computer dies, you know, I had one student this past summer, I taught professional portfolio at DePaul, 5-week course, and one student said, well, I have all this on my share file at work. Oh yeah, well, what if you get laid off? You're not going to have access to that. So I kind of, in the discussion area, I said, by the way, you may want to pull that off and get some of that information onto your own computers because you won't have access to it. People leave jobs, they leave papers behind, you don't think about it. So again, put this on your calendar when you are working and you're back at work. Make sure you're checking in with yourself, whether it's a once a month meeting, half an hour, whatever you need, once a quarter. But at the minimum, every 6 months, you should be updating your resume and making sure it's up to date. And a lot of times what happens is people don't do that, and then they got a lot of work and they already have a lot of stress in their job search just to deal with all the other stuff they're dealing with. So you want to keep that up to date, keep it ready to go. And these are things that come along, and, you know, just make sure you're making copies. You know, you get a letter from a customer, anything that you feel would be a good showcase of your skills, the work you've done, how you handle customers, whatever it might be. And believe me, everybody has something that they can showcase. You know, if someone gave you positive performance review and you have a copy of that, you may be able to pull some of that information out. And like I said, put it in a document, LinkedIn recommendations on a regular basis. I have a calendar recurring item that, you know, I should go out and do recommendations for others, you know, because there's always somebody that I can showcase the good work they're doing. And then I also ask people, could you, you know, recommend me? And it's all automated on LinkedIn. You can just pick and choose the people that you're connected to see if they would be willing to do it. Not everybody is able to do it, willing to do it, has the time for it, but that's why you continually ask more than, you know, one person, because usually somebody comes up with some really nice comments. And for example, in the teaching environment that I'm in, we have surveys, we have evaluations, and if there's some good stuff in there, you know, I try to keep that information, and it also makes you feel good. You know, you have a down day, you go back and you say, wow, you know, I do good work. It is kind of a boost sometimes. So just make sure that you're keeping that up to date. Like I said before, any kind of articles, coverage, information, even on the company website, whatever it might be, you know, try and print that off, you know, capture it. Of course, samples of your work, you know, anything you've done. You have to be somewhat careful. Again, can't give away details about your internal business practices. If it's a proprietary, piece, you're not going to share that online in a public platform, but perhaps you could condense it or summarize it in a way that still showcases how you impacted that process or those situations. If you're a writer, that's easy. You can showcase your work. Did you create instruction manual? Did you onboard staff? Did you create documents to improve a process? All this stuff. Obviously, you think you're just doing your job, but this stuff is something you could do elsewhere. Helping the company, helping people get up to speed quickly. That's saving dollars, time, money, efficiency, process improvement. Summaries, obviously, if you have qualifications, you want to highlight those. And I see people that have, I start talking to them as a result of being a case manager with these different clients. And I start talking to them. I'm like, I don't remember seeing that on your resume. Why isn't that on your resume that you speak 3 languages? People omit this stuff and they don't think it's important. And it's like, hello, that could set you apart as a candidate. And you forget, you're too close to your own career, your own work experience. What you have to do is kind of step back, and that's why it's good to have other people look at your resume. It's always your name at the top of the resume, so you have to decide what's important. The same thing with the digital portfolio. What is it that you want to highlight? What's most important about what you can do? And again, depending on the focus, I'm sure most of the people on the call today would like to use it in their job search. So that's mostly what this is geared towards. But again, depending on what your focus is for the digital portfolio, let people know how you can help them, how you can solve their pain and their troubles in not having somebody in a position. And sometimes for the older workers, as we call ourselves, the Renaissance workers, what you bring to the table is coaching, mentoring, onboarding, training. These are soft skills. These are very challenging for people that are just wet behind the ears and don't have any experience in work or in a career. Some people can do it even at a young age, but most people, it's because of the wisdom that they learned, this intentional learning, this integrative learning that you bringing forward all these decades of your work experience. And most of the time, I never see that on resumes, and that is going to set you apart. That is why they're going to pay more for you, because you have those skills. And if you don't showcase those skills or tell people how well you can do that stuff, what your results were using, obviously, metrics, dollars, numbers, percents, that's what they want to see. That's where their eyes stop. If they see it on your portfolio as well, they're going to read it. Just like in an interview too, people hear that stuff. They stop when they hear numbers. So you really want to highlight all this. And then any training. I skipped one. Summary statement. This is really your 30 to 60-second commercial. You can also use that as a summary to wrap things up. You can use it in a written format, online, or you could use this in a verbal statement. So again, see how this all overlaps with your whole job search process. And your summary statement on the top of your resume is really a written version of your commercial. I'm a professional with over 10 years experience in such and such industry. I've also worked in healthcare, manufacturing, and automotive. Whatever it is, highlight the industries, the broad level industries. People sometimes like to know what other industries you've been in, because sometimes they want to bring people in that are new to their industry. So even if you haven't been in the industry you're applying to, that's okay. Because if you're a manager, you can manage in any environment. That's the thing. They sometimes want somebody new and fresh to bring in some new ideas from different industries. Sometimes they want people with that industry experience. But I see so many summaries at the top of the resume, that's gold, that top half page. You need to catch their attention. You need to highlight that experience. So again, think about where you've been and how that might impact that potential employer looking at all the different candidates that they might have. It's nebulous when you just say, yeah, I'm a motivated team player, using all these cliche phrases. No, be very specific and intentional about what you can bring to the table, and appreciate that maybe you've had a variety of industries. If you've been in one industry, that's fine too, but you have a lot of deep knowledge in that one industry, most likely. So showcase that. And then what about training? Have you taken courses while you've been at work? Has there been some in-house learning platforms that you took advantage of, or that you participated in? Did you go to your local library since you've been unemployed and look at online? They have LinkedIn Learning, free. Lynda.com, I think they've branded it now LinkedIn Learning. If you have a premium membership on LinkedIn, you have access to this. And you can complete these courses and they will show up as like a badge on your LinkedIn profile. And even if you don't have the premium version of LinkedIn, you can still highlight that you've completed these courses. They still carry over, whether you learned it from your library for free, Coursera, educational institutions, maybe you went to college in DuPage and took a course, whatever it is. Maybe you got your MS Office, Microsoft Office certification in Excel Advanced or Intermediate or whatever it was. Highlight these things. And that's always a good answer to the question that you might get in an interview. What have you been doing to upgrade your skills? What have you been doing since you've been laid off? Well, I completed this certificate. And I know that some of you are here at WorkNet DuPage and you're receiving training. I had a client recently, and this person had been funded in the past. She did not complete the exam, has come back now, because again, times go by, and again, sometimes you need to address your job search. We're working with her, and she went ahead and finished the exam on her own. But, she had to come up with that money when before it was funded, and she didn't follow through and get the exam done. So unfortunately, if we're giving you the opportunity, finish the exam. Even if you get a job and you get busy with your new job, try to finish whatever the training program that WIOA affords you. You're going to come back to this at some point. This happens over and over again with some of our clients. And, we can't fund people twice. Not the way the program is designed. And it's something that's going to help you build those fill those skill gaps. But if you don't do your part, then, it's on you to finish your exams and your certificates. And then we got to talk about volunteer activities. I had a woman that I was talking to, and she's like, oh, I haven't been in the workforce, but I've been volunteering at my church. She was running a restaurant for free at this church. She was serving like 600 people. Big spaghetti dinners or whatever. I'm like, what? And she didn't know how to, she didn't even think that was important, first of all. So again, you have to start looking at what you're doing, no matter what arena it's in, whether it's work or volunteer. And you have to start highlighting these activities and showcasing what you've done. So this will give you some ideas. Your digital portfolio could be anywhere. There's so many of these now. Some of the most obvious ones you've probably heard of. You can just create a website. That's easy. Come up with a few different pages that you want. Or you could go to these digital portfolio hosting sites. Some of them are free, some are not. Some are easier to use than others. Again, everybody's got different skill, sets and how they. And I have learned, I don't have school-age children, but some people do, and they have access to. They all have these platforms. So if you have access to that and you want to play around with that, you may be able to even use it for free. I don't know. Again, I'm paying into the system, but I'm not using the system. applicants, you know, with writing samples like WordPress, Tumblr. They're great pieces or great places to post these longer pieces of written work. You can put pictures in, play around with some of this stuff, figure out which one works best for you and what you're trying to do. At the university where I teach, Digication was provided to the students, and they have unlimited number of digital portfolios. So you may be able to go back to your institution even as an alumni and check out and see, do they have something that could be used for free. Behance, Carbon Made, Coraloft, you know, if you're a creative professional, maybe that's something that would be a better fit for you because they're more geared towards, you know, audio, video movies that you're making, whatever it might be. You know, maybe you gave a presentation and it was recorded. I've done this. I've put that in my Digication portfolio. And a lot of these larger portfolios, the good thing is once you do have something set up, you want to use your name probably in the, you know, in the title of it. And what happens is, I think right after I put my first Digication portfolio up, I did a Google search on my name, which you should do on a regular basis. You might even want to set up a Google alert so that you know what's coming up. But what happens is it moves up to the top of your, you know, it's on the first page of your Google search results. And that's good because, you know, I'm going to tell you, these HR people and the hiring managers, they're going to Google you. They're going to look for you and look at your online presence. Wouldn't you rather have them look at this kind of stuff if you make it public? Now, again, you could do a password protected one and only have a little bit of information, have them sign in, and that would be you controlling who gets to see. You know, your audience could control this, or you could control your audience, I'm sorry, and give them a password or whatever. So if you've got employers, but that's one more layer, one more barrier for them to be able to look at your information. You know, again, you have to decide what's the right setup for you. But all the time that you spend to put this together, it really isn't that hard because they've made this more automated. That's the good thing that I can say, being on DOS before Windows, is that things are a lot simpler than they used to be. You don't have to code just to use a software package anymore. So they've got a lot of templates and you can, you know, play around with that. So our friend Steve Jobs, you know, he took calligraphy. He liked design and he wanted to see what things look like. How can you improve design to help people use services, products? And so, you know, look at all the things that he came up with. They were cool. People didn't even know they wanted that stuff until he produced it. And they're like, yeah, I got to have one and I'll pay top dollar to have one of these Apple phones. So purpose, communication, typeface, colors, images, navigation, mobile friendly. I mean, have other people look at this. If you're not good at this kind of stuff, see what other people's comments and feedback is. Maybe there's ways to improve it. And it may be a function too of just getting familiar with the platform that you're using to see, you know, could you move the picture or make it bigger, smaller so that it, you know, it looks better on the page or where it's placed on the page. You know, these are things that you're going to have to fine tune. Don't just slap something together and say, oh, that's good enough. You know, again, you're showcasing your work, so you want it to look nice. But if you want to use a contact me page, so let's say somebody finds you online or somebody does a search on you, and maybe they want to, you know, connect with you through this Digication, this digital platform, you don't have to put your email on there. What I would do is I would have a contact me page, and usually those templates are available that you can set up a page. Hey, I'd love to speak with you. Please contact me here, you know, type a note here. And then they have to send you their email, and it's just a little form. And we, you know, you see this on companies all the time. they have a contact me page because they don't want to get bombarded with emails and spam. But if you want to go ahead and put your email on there, go ahead. Good luck. But I already get enough garbage, so I just figure just something to say to help you avoid that. So this is all about managing your professional identity, and especially in an online environment. You know, who's going to look you up? Potential employers, current employers, you know, how many people have we heard about that got fired because they had a crazy photo, usually involving some kind of nefarious activity that they shouldn't have been doing? Again, what's your online, you know, identity? What's your off, you know, work identity? You know, do you really want those two worlds to collide? I would be careful. There's a lot of, this is the wild, wild west as far as employment law and all this is concerned. So maintain a professional online identity. Who do you think is going to look you up, and what impact would that picture or some rant? You know, I see people on LinkedIn, even a professional network, they're job seekers and they're posting, these are just random people across the planet, but they're posting that they had, you know, never been called back for an interview, and they're, you know, they're typing all this stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? Not only are you going to tick off that employer, but anybody that wants to do a Google search on you is going to see potentially these posts that you're making. I mean, come on, you know, this is just common sense, but you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So all this good stuff you're doing, don't negate it by having some crazy rant online. You know, when you hit enter, be sure that you want to do it. We all have been there, I'm sure. But students, colleagues, peers, you know, who's going to look you up? Really figure out who your audience is. That's like basic marketing. Who's your audience? Who's your target audience? Who do you want to see this, and what impression are they going to get? And sometimes you set this stuff aside for a day or two, come back and look at it. What, you know, what impressions do you get when you first take a look at this stuff? You want to fine tune it. So another way, you know, this is the old school way, but you can put interview kits together with all these artifacts that you now know you have and can collect. Put the copies together, no originals, because you're not going to get this back. It's a leave behind that you could bring. Again, when I've heard some clients are having in-person interviews, but I thought that was unusual, but maybe there are more in-person interviews going on than I know about. But obviously, when you go and meet one-on-one, you can obviously bring this to somebody. This is why digital portfolios might be a great opportunity right now, because everything is done online, and so you can send this link or whatever you create to them. But if, let's say, we go old school and you want to go in person, I've used this technique for many years in many different job interview situations, and I was hired on the spot because I was the only person that did this. And when we used to do the workshops, we would pass around a report cover, and it would have a cover sheet. And I never even got that advanced with the things that I did. But this is a great way to have a cover sheet. Report covers are very simple. You might want to create 4 or 5, you know, depending if you're going to have a panel interview, have a couple extra to bring along. You don't have to put a ton of stuff in there, just maybe 2 or 3 really good artifacts. Again, what's relevant for you and your individual career strategy is going to be important. And I'm sure people are going to have a million questions, but, you know, type them in the Q&A. We're going to get to questions in just a moment. But scan, upload these, put these in the cloud. But in person, you can have this ready to go. And at the right time in the interview, you would present this. And what happens? Okay, the reason this is a strategic set yourself apart as a top candidate move, it's a power move. Let's just call it what it is. You're going to do this and nobody else is doing this. And then they've got your resume. Let's say the interview's over, you've left this behind. They've got your resume, they've got this thing clipped to it. Then they got other resumes behind it. But you know what? Yours is bulky, and they're like, what is all this? Oh yeah, this is that person that was prepared, had a lot of great stuff. Let's get them in here for a job offer, or the second interview, or whatever. I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer, and it doesn't take, you don't have to have brilliant skills to do this. If you can make copies, you can do this. I mean, I did it, so what, you can do it. So again, you might, for your own personal organizational thing, some people like hard copies of stuff. They like to, read the newspaper. They like paper. Good for you. Put it in a binder. Put it in a pocket folder. Keep all this stuff together. And as you gather new stuff, put it in there. But make sure you can scan it, put it up on the web, on your digital portfolio. Again, you may be able to use this in two different avenues with the in-person interview, should we go back to those. We will see. Thumb drives are helpful. Like I said, you want to have maybe some backup on this stuff. All right. So here's some resources. This one book that I have used in a class in the past, it's again, it's kind of guided towards students, but there's so many, I have a wide variety of people in my classes, all the way up to in their 70s. They could be wet behind the ears, 18 to 22, but they're also older and coming back and finishing their degree. So there's all kinds of students that I think this is a really great, just good introduction to career portfolios and how you can use it to kind of help you move through that process of getting a portfolio together. I think I ordered this on Amazon. I downloaded it. It's on my Kindle. It's an ebook. But peaks. Use your experience, your personal characteristics, your experience, your achievements, your knowledge, and your skills. You can spend most of your efforts looking at those things. You got other stuff you want to throw in there, go ahead. Some people have kooky, kind of fun hobbies. If you feel that's important. Now, again, be careful. Everybody's got a different opinion, but maybe, you've been to every ballpark in the United States and seen every baseball team. Maybe that's kind of fun. And you want to highlight that, showing pictures of, that you have a life outside of your work. Depends, be careful there. Depends on what your hobby is. So it's called and then there's this other book, Portfolio Keeping, a Guide for Students. Again, this is geared towards college age, but anybody could use this. And there's a good link here. The Paul, their Career Center, it has a nice, just, basic article and some links on there. And it's open to the public. You can check that out. So what we want to do is have really just a plan for action. That's what we need. We think about all this stuff and our brain swirls around and we don't know what to do next. We'll have a plan. Identify what you want, what type of portfolio would be best for you. Maybe explore a couple of those sites. And what is your best avenue for that? You got to collect your artifacts, assemble them, organize them. Remember which ones you might want to use that you'd forgotten about. That's important too. Then choose your platform and then start making a portfolio for yourself. But don't let it get stale. Keep maintaining it. And then share this with others. Get some feedback. Oops. So I'm sure we have a bunch of questions. Anybody have questions that you'd like to ask?
One is the LinkedIn has a recommendation section. Do employers read that, or should you showcase this in other ways?
Well, if they go through your whole profile, now I think in the past, they had a set template and a set order of how your profile looked. I think there's some flexibility on that. You may be able to push some of those recommendations up higher on the profile page as you look at a page. But again, you could put those in your summary section. I see so many LinkedIn profiles and they haven't even filled out their summary section. That's where all the keywords can go. So again, think about how do you want people to look at this? Do you want them to see those quotes? Maybe pull a few up and put them in your summary. But additionally have the recommendations area. I would also cut and paste those and make a document out of those that you could put on another site. But again, it's there. So it's, if they're going to read your profile, that's a good place to start.
Okay, there's a question here. For privacy purposes, how use portrait photo and stay safe given facial recognition technology in use today?
Well, this is part of our world. We're all being watched. You're walking down your street in your neighborhood and your neighbors are filming you too, and they could be sending that stuff to the cops where you're downtown, you're standing next to some terrorist. I mean, are you going to be assumed that you're with that person just because you're both stopped at the walk light? I don't know where this is going, but you want to use a professional picture, let's say for LinkedIn or a digital portfolio. If you got something to hide, then don't put your picture up there, but I don't care. I mean, I wave at the toll booth, they're always filming you when you're driving through those things. They got readers on your cars. I mean, we're in a surveillance society, so if you have fears about this, I don't know what to tell you. Go live on an island somewhere. If you don't want to be found, then don't put anything online. But you're going to be tracked. I don't know about facial recognition software. I mean, if you're on Facebook, you're already part of that. So I don't know how to answer that question. That's really above and beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, another question. Many of these examples artifacts that you were talking about have dates. The concern is ageism or proprietary information. Do we redact that information?
Well, if you can recreate it in your own format, you could do that. Or yes, you could white out or redact some of the stuff. You have to be careful because you don't want to get a lawsuit from sharing this online. You have to know what your exit agreements were if you were let go and you signed something. That again goes into the realm of employment law. So sometimes if it's a private company, if it's a public company, then a lot of that stuff might be online. But if you start talking dollars, numbers, processes, patents, things that are proprietary, I would be very careful.
Okay. Can you use LinkedIn as your portfolio?
Well, if you're using LinkedIn, you are using it as your portfolio, but do you have everything on there? And again, they have limitations on that. You can attach, videos, you can attach PDFs, you can do a lot of things with LinkedIn, but if you're limited by what that offers, then I would suggest finding another platform and using something. And you can always refer back from LinkedIn. You can put your link to your digital portfolio on your LinkedIn profile. You could put it on your resume. We're going to talk about this. I got a few slides left, but I wanted to stop for questions.
Okay. In your professional opinion, LinkedIn allows posts for articles, opinions, and politics. Should the job seeker engage in this medium? That's from Frank.
Okay, politics and LinkedIn probably don't go together. I mean, it's First Amendment rights, but if you start rambling about your political leanings on LinkedIn, you got to be careful. I think LinkedIn, you can post things that are relevant to your industry and maybe the impact of certain policies are going to have on your industry. That's not being political. That's just stating maybe opinions or facts about, tariffs or regulations or things like that. But you have to be careful because, you know, you might have a lot of people agree with you, but then you might have other ones and they could be potential hiring managers. They might disagree with you. You know, we got a broad spectrum out there, don't we?
Let's see, someone likes, Julie likes, I really like the paper collection to keep a real folder, such as a great idea and will help keep me organized. Let's see, we did this one. I'm trying to search the book Peaks on Amazon, and it's not found. Is there an author?
I think so. You should be able to find it though. Here, let me go back to that slide. Which slide? It's called the Career Portfolio Workbook. Let me go back. Oops. It's called the Career Portfolio Workbook. Using the newest tools in the job hunting arsenal to impress employers and land great jobs.
Okay. Lori says, one of the challenges with completing documentation is getting organized. I feel overwhelmed constantly. Are there any personal organization software or apps that can help me get it together?
Well, some people use Evernote. You know, sometimes you just have to figure out what works for you. Sometimes hiring a coach. Everybody has, you know, their areas that they need help with. And I mean, you hire fitness trainers, you hire, you know, couples coaching, you know, you can do a coach for just about anything. And you can usually interview them, talk to them first, you know, have a 30-minute session with them. That's, you know, free. There's tons of people that can help you with these things. If you have limited funds, you know, then I would search online. There's lots of apps. Like I said, that Evernote, you can use that, I think, on your phone. Paper, you know, does complicate our lives. But sometimes you need those, you know, tactile reminders of things. And then sometimes to organize it, you know, sometimes you got to spread it out. I personally love mind maps. You know, I don't know if this is like a answer to your question, but when I mind map things, it organizes information and I can do a brain dump, all these ideas that are swirling around in my head. And if you go on YouTube and you do a search on my name, you will find the one and only video that I have out there, potentially, that I know about, is action steps for success, how to use mind maps. And it's the example that I use, and it's only about 4 minutes long. I've had it out there over 10 years, and like 9,000 people have looked at it. But I was tired. YouTube was very new at that time, and I said, you know, I'm tired of seeing dogs skateboarding. I need somebody to learn something on here. So I put a video out there about how to mind map your network of advocates. So collecting people and information is a lot of challenges. You got a million business cards, maybe. You got scraps of paper with people's numbers or their emails. You got stuff online. You know, there's all kinds of stuff everywhere now. And even though these computers were, you know, promised to make our lives simpler, I think it's just made it more complex. But get a big piece of paper or an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and put in the center. This is a little freebie, little mind mapping session, but just put the hot topic, whatever you're trying to organize your thoughts or your papers around, put that in the center of the paper, and then anything that occurs to you, this is how our brain works. It just sparks keywords, different ideas. You know, it might be random stuff or it looks random, but then when you get that all dumped out on your page, and I think there is something about writing that anchors learning for people. I know it does for me. I might never look at my notes after I listen to somebody speak, but at least I learned it while I was writing it down. Somehow that's in my brain. Everybody's different though, but I find that's true for me. But once I've dumped all that stuff out on the page, I can set it aside and I can, maybe go to sleep because maybe all this stuff is racing through my head at night when I'm trying to sleep, because then my RAM is like downloading and it's freeing up. But when you're worried about, life and there's a lot going on, I get it. It's stressful right now for a lot of people, a lot of different layers of it. But if you can dump all this stuff out, then the next day, take a look at the information and you can see how these threads might come together. You can see the dominant patterns or themes from everything that you've dumped out there. So again, take a look at the video. Mind mapping, there's tons of videos about that as well. Tony Buzan, Buzan. He's like the father of mind mapping. Back in the 80s, I think this was a technique that was used. But it's really just a brainstorming technique, but sometimes it helps you organize your thoughts. I was about to lose my mind when I started my master's program because I had all these different things I was doing, and I was able to, as really an instructional designer, create my own curriculum. And I was, afforded that opportunity through the type of program I went into, but it was also mind bending. And I was like, I don't even know where to begin with this. So it was all about competencies. So I had to dump all this stuff out onto a mind map and see, well, where does this overlap? Where does this all come together? And it took, a couple months to kind of narrow it all down. But then that guided me through the rest of the program. And it was insane. There was a lot of stuff that I had rolling around in my head, and the mind mapping, I swear, if I hadn't learned that, I don't think I would have ever finished that program. Mind mapping, I think, is a very powerful tool. I wish we taught kids this back, when they're in kindergarten, but I digress. Anyway, that's my answer to that question, long-winded.
Okay, Eve has a couple here, but we'll take them one at a time. Speaking of dates and ages, and what if your work is old? An example is fundraising proposals written 10 years ago, still relevant but not current. Should you create a new original content?
Well, again, if you can just remove lots of dates on different documents, can easily be whited out or, just scanned without the dates on it. If you have the original, make a copy. And then, you want to maybe keep your originals for whatever reason. But, if it's a good example of what you can do, who cares what the date is? If you could do it again, what difference does it make? Just try to eliminate the dates if you feel that would, cause you to have, a bad consideration in an employment setting. Again, you don't have to volunteer this stuff. You can take it off. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. That's what.
Yeah, we have several here. Is it recommended that senior job seekers delete their names from Google search due to ageism? Employers evidently could search Google and identify your age group, the 50s, 60s, or 70s.
I don't know how you're going to delete yourself from Google search.
Yeah.
Good luck. Let me know if you know how to do that. No, that's not even possible. So yeah, again, you are who you are. Why not showcase yourself and be proud of all that you have done? So many people get hung up on, oh, they're not going to hire me. It's all a mindset a lot of times. You also have to target companies where you want to work. There's lots of companies that would like your skills and your experience, and you have to present that. You have to showcase it. If you come, schlumping in there and, the picture you have online is, obviously from the 70s because you're wearing some kind of mustard colored stand-up collar or something, you have control over that. Well, I would do the best I can and just, again, it is what it is. Let the chips fall where they may. They need to know that you have skills outside of anybody coming, wet behind the ears. What's the advantage to them to hire you with this experience and wisdom that you bring to the table? That's what you got to showcase.
Okay. Some of my work was not online when originally done. Is scanning okay? Now that text is digital, it could be presented differently.
I'm not sure what the question is. Yeah, you can scan anything. Just find a copier where you can scan. If you can take a picture of something and it turns out okay, that's fine too. A lot of these cameras on these newer phones are beautiful, you know. They're very clear, but just make sure it's a clear, clean, it's not askew, you know, it's randomly, you know, you got a coffee stain on it or something, you know, like make sure that it's a clean copy of whatever you're going to scan.
Yeah, I guess old work changed to look different. I don't know, it's old work, but
Yeah, I mean, stuff that you typed on a typewriter is probably gonna, you know, maybe not be as fresh and, you know, I don't know how old we're talking here. You know, if it's a key punch, you know, card, punch cards, you know, is that relevant? We always talk about this. Is it relevant? What's relevant about the work that you want to showcase? Sometimes people get hung up on, well, I want to tell them everything I've ever done. Well, you know, who has time for that, first of all, in an interview or in a, you know, reading online? You know, you can't have like 50,000 pages on here on this. You got to keep it, again, short, snappy, relevant.
okay. I think that's it for the main questions that are pertinent. I'll address ones that are on different topics.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go. I just got a couple more slides here to go through. And then again, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to try to answer them if I can. But as we also wanted to talk about, you know, how do you look at professional development and how do you incorporate that into your digital learning showcase of your skills and activities? You know, if you are, we're always learning and growing and doing new things. So again, we talked about these. There's a lot of e-learning platforms. If you follow Andrew on LinkedIn, he's got the Get Hired Search, job search guide for job seekers. There's a lot of free LinkedIn courses that they've made available around the job search and, you know, presenting yourself, branding yourself. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And, you know, even if you pick up one or two good tips, it's worth the time. I'm always learning new things. You know, this is something where we focus on job search, so you don't have to. We try to synthesize all this good information and present it to you because we know you're working. All you need to do is be good enough to get the job. We don't expect you to become experts in job search. That's what we're here for. So, but you know, LinkedIn is a great platform. Learn as much as you can. Again, at your local library, if you have a library card and you have access to your local library that way online, you can access, most libraries have the LinkedIn learning courses. They're done very well. They're professional. There's, you know, you can learn, you know, Python if you want. I mean, I don't know what you want to learn, but there's lots of stuff on there besides the general communications, all kinds of stuff. So for example, you know, let's say you want to learn about remote work. Well, that's becoming a thing, isn't it? I mean, people were doing a lot of this stuff before, but now we're kind of forced, all of us, to do it. And the skills that you need in that, you know, you have to be up to date on some of this stuff. By hook or by crook, you're going to be doing it. Right, Jim?
Yep.
But there's probably for every industry, every occupation, there's some kind of certification. I've just highlighted project management because we get a lot of people, variety of industries, variety of projects, types of project management, product management, service management, you know. But you got to do your homework. What is the best certification for you depending on what you want to do in your career? How do you earn them? What is required? You know, we have people that come here and they're like, I demand training. You know, I need training. I can't get a job. Well, there's a whole bunch of conversation around why they can't get a job because just in interacting with them about the training, but I digress. So one guy, he was very committed to getting training, and he was mad that we, told him he didn't need training because he was very marketable. Well, he didn't even have the hours that he needed to be able to sit for the exam and to take part of the training. So again, he came to the table demanding something that he wasn't even eligible for, but he didn't do his homework. He was just a bad person all the way around. Anyway, what we can do though is we can help you, with these resources to help you go to Career One Stop. Career One, spelled out, ONE, stop.com. It's a fabulous resource. Tons of stuff on there. They've got salary tools. These things are all, very easy to find if you just Google stuff. But it's a great resource about careers and occupations and videos and what's expected, what are the type of skills needed, what kind of training is needed, what typically do people have in that career at different levels. Do you have to have a bachelor's degree? Do you have to have a master's or PhD or different certifications? Do a little research on your career and be surprised sometimes your career shifts and evolves. If you got into this a long time ago, things may be going in different directions. You may want to keep up with it. Cybersecurity, cloud computing, these are top examples of where, people get high salaries for these types of, this type of work. So just out of curiosity, I was going to focus on this one area. Obviously, we get, a lot of people are not in IT, but I just want you to see what these different certifications, what they can bring you. And Jim just shared with us, he got this DICE report, and I shared it with some of my clients that are in IT. But the Q2 report, it highlighted these targeted skills and the software and the certifications and the companies that are hiring for some of these things. So that right there is your target, company list. Every industry does this though. They have reports, what industry are you in? Think broad. If you're in manufacturing, you might be in a subset, which is automotive or, widgets or whatever. But what is relevant to you, and then what are the certifications? What are the things that you possibly could even negotiate as future demands? If they can't meet you on salary, maybe they pay for your certifications. They want to invest in you because obviously if they're going to invest in you as a salaried part of their labor pool, they would like you to be more skilled. Maybe you can talk them into it. It's a different bucket. We talked about salary on the Wednesday job tips for those of you that are clients, and there was a lot of good information about negotiations there. In the IT world, you're just on a treadmill. You're just constantly getting new certifications. It's never going to stay the same. So who's going to pay for it? Maybe you're making enough that you can. But if you want to break into these fields, you got to maybe step up and pay or get some training somehow, some way. All right. So again, some of these salaries are already impressive, but if you cross certify and you're skilled in a bunch of different areas, and again, think about this, you may already have these cross certifications. Are you highlighting that? Are you telling the employer, hey, I can do this and I can do this? So I thought that you'd just find that humorous. That I can't hear you laughing, but that's because of our technology. So again, keep reviewing the occupational forecasts, the salary forecasts, the industry information. Keep learning and growing in your chosen field. And if you don't like where you are at, you feel you're limited, or you don't like the companies, the organizations, stop complaining, make a change. Figure out where you want to go. Use your functional skills to make a change into something different. Maybe you need to retool completely. I've done career changes a few times, and sometimes it's by choice, sometimes it's by chance that I had the option. But again, what do you want to do? We outgrow. Sometimes we get, we've learned everything we can learn and we've done everything we can do. We need to move on and do some new things. So nothing wrong with that. Just you got to make a plan. Now, stackable credentials, there's micro learning options. Sometimes you can't just bite off a whole, MBA or a bachelor's degree or whatever. Maybe you need to take little steps, and that's okay, because that's really the only thing that mainly working adults can do. So again, this is where all these online distance learning, you can take classes from MIT, top schools. It does, as long as you have an internet connection, you could be in some remote island somewhere and you can learn this stuff. Now, is it being accredited to your, university transcript? I don't know. That's the whole thing about this, is there's a lot of free stuff out there and a lot of really reasonably priced, distance learning options, but where are the areas that you could just do some basic stuff, remote technology, administration skills, social media skills, Microsoft Office, that is going to be something I could spend the rest of my life trying to learn all these features on all these products. It's not how I choose to spend my time, but I hack around. I'm good enough for what I need to do in my role, but maybe there's a role that you would like to pursue and you realize, wow, I need to be more proficient in Excel or Access or whatever, Leadership, management, those are, wide-ranging skill areas that project management, everybody's managing some kind of project. Technical skills of any kind. What are the universal, the fundamental, the transferable skills that you could, get engaged with? Well, what about communication, critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, cross-training? And it really comes down to your attitude. Lifelong learning. I had one woman I'll never forget. She was so angry and so upset throughout the whole workshop. And I said, you got to be careful, because that attitude's going to come across in your interview. No, it's not. Well, right there she had an attitude. So we talked. After everybody left the room, what does she do? She starts crying and she tells me, well, I'm really done with this career and I really want to be a writer. Okay, well, now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, she's mad at herself because she got laid off. She's not happy. She's in a transition, which, believe me, transitions are upheaval. But she realized this is her real passion, and she thanked me for taking the time to talk to her after the class. And, so staying in that one career that she no longer liked, probably hated, that's a recipe for health disaster. I'll tell you that right now. I haven't gone through that myself. So anyway, LinkedIn Learning, lots of credentials that you can earn on your own, whether they're, accredited stuff that you can put, but you can showcase this on and I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, LinkedIn Learning has a blog, and I would sign up for that, because they have, just this past few months, they've had all these free things that they've shared to help people, especially in the job search. I mean, they got 750 million people on there, and they're making a lot of money. Microsoft bought them a couple years ago for, I don't know, $24 billion or something. Yeah, I think they can provide a few free classes, but take advantage of it.
So Jennifer, you go back, you kind of looked at, you froze. Go back a slide and
Sure.
yeah. So certifications and training are available. Professional development certainly can be a spot on your resume, as well as in your LinkedIn profile and in your portfolio. If you want to go to the next slide, Jennifer.
Sure. Sorry, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were back on. So this professional development, I wanted to show you, and we developed this, both Jennifer and I, Javon, for your resume, and it shows Acme Training and Lyle. These are the different stages that you can put on your resume. Currently enrolled in Agile Scrum Master training. Or you can, if you're going to a college or university, current enrolled in liberal arts, business administration. If you are in certification training, the next phase would be completed Agile Scrum Master training, and finally certified Agile Scrum Master. Alrighty, so those are different phases you can go and list on your resume to keep it current. Okay, Jennifer, I don't know what else you got. So the code for today is, for those of you who are enrolled in our program and working with a career counselor, PORT 302, port 302. You send that code to your counselor and let them know that you attended today's session. That fulfills a requirement for you to maintain monthly contact with your counselors or participating in the program. PORT 302. Port 302. Okay, Jennifer, what you got next? Another thing that, you know, Jennifer, Javon, and I would like to know, as well as the counselors, is we like hearing your stories of getting a job. We just had a guy get a position all through networking. He attended a local job club, sat down with one of the facilitators of a job club. The facilitator realized that the job seeker was really serious and gave out a personal contact to him. And the personal contact got a hold of him, the candidate, quickly, got him interviewed, and wound up hiring him. So it's, you know, it's little things like those stories that give everyone encouragement and give us encouragement to know that these techniques work, because we liked, you know, Jennifer used several stories. I like using people's stories to show, you know, reality, people on the ground, not out of a book, but reality. Also, the WIOA grant is funded through Congress, through legislation. And in order to keep the grant every year when we renew it, 70% of the people have to get positions. And that keeps it renewed. Otherwise, the program goes on probation. But also for us at Work Not Do Page, if we hit 80%, that gives us more, they call it incentive monies, to serve more of the public. So it's important for you to let us know when you get a job, what type of job, what kind of salary, do you get benefits? Congress wants to know this. And then also Department of Labor uses this to put together employment projections you might find in the Occupation Outlook Handbook or something like that. One of the places Frank asked, is there a place to share success stories from WIOA training? Yes, your counselor will send you a form that you fill out where you can give a narrative on that. You can certainly send it to your counselors. We are starting to put together a place on our website for success stories. And or you can send it to me or Jennifer or Javon. I would certainly like to know because I just find it fascinating. I like the journey and finally getting the reward. Coming up next week is Sarah Brighthop. She runs the Lyle Job Club. She'll talk about the mindful job search, being in the present moment. We worry about our past, things from our past that might affect our future, and then we project in the future all of our worries and concerns, like ageism and things like that. We project every reason why we can't get hired rather than looking at why we do. So that will again be on at 9 o'clock next Friday. You can sign up on our website at worknetdupage.org. On the 28th, we have Dan Ohlert, the e-job coach. He will talk about branding for the job search, the Apple way. He worked for Apple for 20 years in marketing. So he's going to talk about how you can present yourself using Apple techniques. Okay, Jennifer.
Okay, that is the last slide we have. Thank you so much for everyone's attention. I know we covered a lot. We will have the slide deck with the links as a PDF available. The webinar page has all of our past job clubs, anything that we record here, so you'll always have access to the recording, but we'll also post the handout as well. All right, I hope this answered and, you know, a lot of your questions about what a digital portfolio is, and hopefully got you fired up about starting to put one together. And I think just the incredible advantage of doing this is that you have a showcase and you remember all the good stuff you've done. A lot of people forget that. They get depressed in the job search. It's very isolating. You think, oh boy, you know, I'm never going to find another job. Well, guess what? You will. This is a blip on the whole timeline of your career. And what you can do is take action. That's the best way to move out of depression, is to take some steps, take some action, and, you know, not get down about the situation in this present moment, because you do have a choice and you can do these things and highlight your job skills. So you can increase your skills all the time. And you're always doing that anyway. You just maybe never recorded it or showcased it, but I'm encouraging you to do it. So thanks again, everybody, for your attention and for visiting with us today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon. Have a great weekend. I'm going to stop here.